Excited to be talking to you today. This is the session, the Surface Challenge. I took away my executives' iPads and laptops, gave them Surface Pro 3s, and lived to tell about it. So, excited to talk to you guys today about some exciting things we've been experiencing. So first, a little bit about myself. My name is Hughes. I'm the VP of Infrastructure and Operations at RCIS, which is a subsidiary of Wells Fargo. I'm based in Minneapolis, Minnesota. So I've spent about 16 years in the IT industry, and I got my start in end user computing, desktop support, desktop architecture, mobile computing. That's where I got started. Then eventually got into Citrix, Metaframe, presentation servers, XenApp. That's actually how I first kind of came into the BriForum family here. Then I moved into data center, app hosting, network, compute storage, kind of making my rounds across all of infrastructure. And once I had begun to realize that I was no longer the smartest person in the room on any one of these subjects, it seemed like a good time to get into management. So, which is what I've been doing for the last couple of years, and which I enjoy quite a bit, especially from the aspect of strategic infrastructure. I like working across the stack and looking for opportunities for business productivity and doing things to move things forward. So I find that very enjoyable. On this topic, I've been doing Windows tablets in the enterprise for 6 years, which I think qualifies as doing it before it was cool, for sure. So Windows tablets starting to become a little bit cool, but they weren't 6 years ago, that's for sure. But got a lot of experience doing Windows tablets, so that's what we're going to talk about. I've been a BriForum attendee since 2007, and I was a speaker here in 2013 in Chicago. Was anyone in my 2013 session on Windows tablets? All right. You're all new. Good deal. So I spoke here in 2013, and I'll tell you that speaking about Windows tablets in 2013 is quite a bit different than today. I'm actually really excited to be talking about what's happened in the last couple of years. I work for Rural Community Insurance Services. That's a large crop insurance company. We insure corn, wheat, soybeans, that kind of thing. How that relates to this is a vast majority of my user base is in the field, remote 100% of the time. So mobile computing is the vast majority of my workforce. And we are a subsidiary of Wells Fargo. And just as a point of clarification, the editorial aspects of this session, these views and opinions are my own. Don't interpret anything I'm saying as official Wells Fargo policy. All right, let's talk through our agenda. First, what got us here today? The post-PC era. Talk a little bit about what has led up to the chain of events today. And the post-PC era. I'll explain what that means in a little bit. The consumerization of IT and how that's influenced the end-user computing industry as it relates to this topic. Define the problem a little bit. What's wrong with iPads? Why do they fall short? And what problems are we trying to solve? The resistance. What are the barriers to adopting Windows tablets? And we'll spend a good chunk of the time addressing those. Talk a little bit about some of the advantages of Windows tablets, and then I'll discuss my Surface Challenge project, how I was able to do what the title says. We'll get into those details in a little bit. Also talk about product selection. There are more tablets out there than just the Microsoft ones, so we'll survey the landscape of what's out there. So talk a little bit about smartphones as it relates to the topic, a little bit about the future and what we should be doing next. All right. Welcome to the post-PC era. Steve Jobs, back when he was still with us, talked about a world without Microsoft. It seems quite convenient for him to be talking about the world without his chief competitor, but this maybe didn't completely come true, but it certainly shook things up, influenced the conversation quite a bit. And I would say kind of right around 2013, last time I was speaking on this topic, we were in a bit of a trough of trough related to this. The blogs, the industry analysts were all talking about Windows 8 and the failures of Windows 8 and really just spelling doom for Microsoft. Everyone was kind of loving to hate Windows 8 at that point in time. This is an IDC chart from 2013. Basically showing the PC sales falling off a cliff, and it's a little bit deceptive. So you think this is time on the x-axis here, but it's just different vendors. But look, PC sales are falling off a cliff. So, but regardless, it makes a point. Even Gartner, Microsoft is dead, Windows has expired, Office has ceased to be, and the whole industry was kind of swelling around the idea that let's have a big old funeral for Microsoft. This is the end of the line, all right? So this kind of leads me to the point of asking the question, how's that working out for you? I mean, we still all have PCs, right? All of our companies still run on PCs, right? So was this just a bunch of huffing and puffing? So let's fast forward a little bit. 2015 now, current day. Whatever happened to post-PC? People actually aren't writing about post-PC all that much anymore. I found one article that talked about the iPad Pro that's theoretically coming out soon. It's going to bring back post-PC with a vengeance. Apart from that, no one's really talking about it. Post-PC is kind of dead. And remember this chart from IDC? So here's the 2015 version of that same chart. It's slightly less dramatic, right? Okay, we got a negative 0.2 decline here. Things have leveled off a little bit, but still, the prophecy could come true. A little more realistic, all right? HP even looks at things a little more optimistically. They, of course, sell PCs. And they say, yep, we've already hit the bend here. We're already on the recovery. We're already selling more PCs than we have previously. Okay. And, the bloggers, the analysts are no longer hating on Microsoft so badly. Windows isn't dead yet. And this is a kicker. This came out earlier this year. A projection, and not just a projection, the numbers. Global tablet sales declined for the first time in 2015 since they went mainstream in 2010. That's significant. No one's putting those charts up or all over the place and showing these tablet sales falling off a cliff. But and look at this. Microsoft hardware, the Surface business, is officially a $1 billion business. Now I know they've had some issues with profitability, but selling $1 billion worth of Surface hardware is significant. So what happened? This happened. So I mentioned I'm from Minnesota. I watch the NFL. I watch the Vikings. The Vikings aren't particularly exciting to watch nowadays. So this past fall, as I was watching the NFL games, not too excited about watching the football play, but I was excited because these things are everywhere, are they not? And the fact that I noticed that is not unique. My boss noticed that. My business partners noticed that. Everyone started seeing these things. This got out there. Not just as a good product, but something that was being advertised to consumers. And that kind of led me to this notion that the same consumerization of IT trend that brought iPads into the enterprise is now, believe it or not, pulling in Windows tablets in the enterprise, specifically with the Surface, because of the marketing that Microsoft has done to consumers. I would say specifically in the NFL, has been very, very effective. So this is exciting. So again, I could not have said that in 2013, not even a little bit. I was talking with one of my fellow speakers a couple days ago, and he told me, I can't wait to trade in my MacBook for a Microsoft Surface. It's like, who on earth would have said that in 2013? No one in their right mind. And you still might say, that's not me. But still, this is less crazy than it used to be, right? That was Ryan Revord, so I don't think he's here right now, but he said that to me. So, full of win, right? This is consumerization of IT, kind of pulling something in that I can work with, not fight against. And just to show you, I'm just as excited as Picard here. I'm full of wind. So this is good stuff. It's fun to be in Windows tablets in 2015. So, what's wrong with iPads? So obviously, I like the Microsoft Surface. Let's talk about what are the problems with the iPads. So, of course, iPads came in the enterprise, not necessarily by our choosing. Our bosses brought them in. The CEO got one. They said, hey, IT guy, hook it up to the email system. That really wasn't all that hard. We were able to do that. But it didn't stop there. These iPads started showing up all over the place, and in the line of business, and somewhere along the line, someone said laptop replacement. Now, wait a second, I didn't say laptop replacement. No, they said laptop replacement. And all of a sudden, now I've got a much bigger job, And, it's because it all comes down to expectations. You give somebody a smartphone, they don't expect it to replace their computer. You give somebody a tablet, there's something about that form factor that, intuitively to the end user, they think, this should be able to do everything my laptop does. Of course, that is not a rational thought, but it doesn't matter. That's our jobs now. Try to figure out how to make that work. And that's just from the end user's perspective. What about compliance, security? I got to do a legal discovery on a device. Can I do that with an iPad? The tools and the ecosystem is starting to develop there, but is nowhere close to feature parity. And of course, it comes down to apps, as we all know. In our company, we use Windows apps, lots of them, lots of in-house written Windows apps as well. So it's that's the world that we're living in. And how do I get these Windows apps to work on an iPad? Well, my first thought was to talk to my peer who runs the development organization and say, all right, here's the deal. These iPads, everyone wants them to replace their laptops. We got these line of business apps that you write. I need you to, learn Objective-C, convert them over the weekend, I don't know, and, recompile these for iOS. And he looks at me like, dude, we've got millions of lines of code in Windows apps. This is not something that's going to happen anytime soon, anytime ever. We've got a tremendous investment in Windows. What you're talking about is not possible. Okay, well, that's all right, because I'm a Citrix guy. I know how to put Windows apps on everything, right? But the truth of the matter is, an iPad is kind of a lousy thin client. It can work, but it is, probably not going to be a person's only PC. But, hey, VDI. I can do VDI on an iPad. Again, I'm a virtualization professional. I know how to do that. So, boom, I put VDI on an iPad. Look at me. And, and I got, Windows 7 running on an iPad. And I'm like, it's alive, look at this is cool, right? And, it can be done, Half the vendors out there in the expo hall can help you do this if you don't know how. It's not hard. But, this is a bit of a monster. It's a bit of a freak of nature, right? Was Windows designed to run on that? No. Was, an iPad designed to run Windows apps? No. So while we can do it, this is unnatural. And, I've been doing this for a long time. So, 13 years ago, I had my sweet compact iPack. I got like the PCMCIA slot adapter, slid that on the back, got, those first gen air cards, threw that thing in there. It's on the internet. I got the ICA protocol stack on there. I'm remoting Windows apps to my iPack, and I'm like walking around the office, hey, look at this. Isn't this the coolest thing ever? And they're like, oh man. So does anybody else do this? Oh, yes. All right, my friends. Okay, good. Yes, I'm not the only one, right? Because we entertain ourselves with this to a degree, right? We do it because we can, not necessarily because this makes any business sense, right? When I go to Home Depot, they make hammers. Their house brand is HDX. Of course, every time I see HDX at Home Depot, I'm not thinking Home Depot brand. I'm thinking Citrix Protocol. So I'm thinking, I see they're selling hammers. When all you have is HDX, all your VDI problems look like nails. Just like that's sometimes our approach to end user computing. We can remote anything, anywhere, because we know how to. Doesn't necessarily mean we should. So back to our little freak of nature that we've created. We can do this for ourselves, and I've seen actually lots of people here doing, remoting Windows onto their iPads, and we can do this for ourselves. But what's the business response to this when we say, here's your new end user computing, that's an iPad running Windows? Facepalm. and their facepalm makes me facepalm. So this is kind of a disappointing adventure. It's technically interesting, but practically speaking, it falls flat. So the reality is, because we've fallen short of our goal of replacing the laptop with an iPad, you have both. So every end user, every business executive that travels with their iPad also has to carry around their laptop. Even if you take care of 80% of the workload, what if that 20% pops up and they need to, work in the finance system when they're traveling? They're going to bring their laptop with them. So does carrying around two devices make you more mobile? That's the question, right? We think we are. Look, we got iPads, they're cool. I'm more mobile. Really? You got more to carry. So what we're trying to solve for looks like this. I need a productivity suite like Office. I really can't, get by with anything less than that. We gotta do, we gotta manage these systems. We're used to the systems of, SCCM, 80 GPOs. There is EMM out there, but the gap there is still significant in terms of what you can configure. I need security and compliance add-ons, like what's available in the third-party ecosystem for Windows. Users want to access their file servers and their SharePoint sites without, additional layers of obfuscation. They want to be able to use a USB flash drive if they've got one. TechTarget gave me a USB flash drive to put my presentation on. If I was presenting from an iPad, that would have been a problem. But I'm presenting from a Surface, so I can do that. I want to be able to print to a normal printer without jumping through lots of hoops. Admit it, I want Windows on something that looks like an iPad. When you break it down, that's kind of what it gets down to. More importantly, I want the new stuff without having to give up the old stuff. And I think that's a reasonable request. Shouldn't we be able to progress and modernize as IT without pulling out the rug from underneath our users and our business? Shouldn't we be able to maintain continuity with the past? So that's what we're trying to do. I love what an iPad represents and what it brings. I don't like what it takes away. So the solution is Windows tablets. They've been around for a long time, but we don't like Windows tablets. We still like to hate those things. Why is that? So let's spend the next couple of minutes talking about the resistance, dealing with the resistance. And I will say, my success in rolling out Windows tablets in the enterprise is largely predicated on upfront dealing with the resistance. So number one is I don't like the Surface. So who here has or had a Surface 1, 2, or anything with RT? Okay, what are you doing with those things now, right? Maybe paperweights, maybe you'd give them to your kids. They here play with this. It's like, wow, Mom, Dad, this iPad sucks, right? These things are kind of junk, right? And I stood in front of lots of conferences, lots of mobility conferences and talks and meetings where people, held these things up and made fun of them, right? So unfortunately, Microsoft made a bad first impression. I would say, one strategy in kind of dealing with this is number one, admitting it. Third time was the charm when it came to Microsoft and tablets. The first couple tries were pretty faulty. So I like the Surface Pro 3. I hated everything that came before it. So part of the strategy is agreeing with that and admitting that. And the second part of the strategy is understanding that there are other products available. If you still want to be a Microsoft Surface hater, doesn't necessarily mean Windows tablets are out of the question. So we'll get to that later. I hate Windows 8. This kind of goes back to the sentiment that was deeply entrenched in 2013, but is still a little bit around today. Everyone loves to hate this thing, and that was a barrier to adoption. That was something I had to deal with. One of the ways I dealt with that is, of course, this is what everyone sees and then thinks of when they think of Windows 8. Is this thing? Is this the OS? Is this the UI? No, this is the Start menu. And you have to ask yourself, okay, being generous, how much time in a given day do I spend in the Start menu of any flavor of Windows? If I said 30 seconds, do you think that might be a little bit of a high estimate? The point being is you can get around this, even if it's not great, even if this is the worst piece of the OS, you can kind of deal with it and get around it. And we're able to successfully kind of train our end users to use it, but stay out of it to a degree. So that's how we got around the I hate Windows 8 resistance. The other thing you can do is, this kind of takes the Surface Pro 3 out of the question, but you can go with other Windows tablets that run Windows 7. You might say, I don't hate Windows 8, but I just got off of XP last week. That's like way off in the distance. I'm not there yet. So that kind of leads me to my next point is, we're a Windows 7 shop through and through. We just got here. I'm not doing Windows 8. Maybe 10 one day in 2019 when I have to. We'll talk about it. But we're a Windows 7 shop, and therefore we're not doing tablets. So I told you that I've been doing Windows tablets for 6 years. Well, Windows 8 hasn't been out that long. So I've been doing Windows tablet for the majority of that time on Windows 7. And people think, Windows 7 isn't touch capable. So I've got this really short video to show you, just to demonstrate that Windows 7 is slightly more touch capable than you might have thought. The hardware, the software, the browser, all of this stuff is approximately 4 to 5 years old. So this is an old video. So here we got Windows 7, the old school Windows 7 start menu, the really old school Windows 7 on-screen keyboard. So I got IE open here, right in the frame. I can pinch zoom, I can pan to scroll. Bring up my keyboard again. Going to my favorite non-Microsoft mapping tool, Google Maps. I can pinch zoom right in the frame there. Pan around. It knows where I'm located. This is right where my tablet is located. And pan around there. Now, that might not be impressive by 2015 standards, but the point of this video is, Windows 7 is more touch capable than you may have thought. And this is just normal IE, no fancy overlays, no fancy plugins. This just works. So another perception around Windows tablets, especially compared to iPads, is people think it works like a pick-two triangle. I might be able to find a Windows tablet that is light and has great battery life, but it's going to be very, very slow. Or I might find one, that's got great battery life, it's fast, but it's going to be, 17 pounds. Or I might find one that's, fast and light, but, it's going to have about 30 seconds of battery life. So that's, how people perceive, Windows tablets are compared to an iPad. The truth is, in 2015, you can get a 28-ounce device with 9 hours of battery life and a Core i7 processor, and without any compromises there. So yeah, you can kind of take this, pick two triangle and pick all three. Today, that's a reality. So the next piece of resistance is Windows takes forever to boot. I heard this from my end user community all the time. Zach, it takes like a half hour for me to boot into Windows. And you kind of need to put on your Eeyore voice while you're talking about it. Here I am, booting Windows. And, comparatively, they say, I like iPads because it's instant on. So this problem is solved. This was solved in 2013. This was solved in 2012. This was solved a long time ago, really, if we chose to go there. This is solved with an SSD. So any modern Ultrabook-based Windows tablet or any Windows platform, as long as you've been keeping up with the times, can boot in 5 seconds or less, can resume from sleep in less than 1 second. That's pretty close to instant on. This has been solved if you choose to invest accordingly. So I think it's totally worth it from a productivity standpoint. So we've done that across the board for all of our end user computing devices. Now, another piece of resistance is Windows tablets are too expensive. And of course, if you look at this comparison, Surface is going to run you $850 to $1,200, and an new iPad's going to run you $500 to $800, depending, of course, the configuration and the options. And anyone can see that, of course, Windows is more expensive. But that's, of course, not the formula. You have an iPad, you have to throw on your EMM platform on top of that, license that, and of course, we never got rid of that pesky laptop. And maybe you don't buy in, and that laptop is going to need to get refreshed, on your refresh cycle. So, to kind of maintain this footprint, It's going to absolutely cost you more. So when dealing with the Windows tablet strategy and pitching these things to the business, you know, you got an iPad budget and a desktop budget. Put those things together, you can buy Windows tablets and have money to burn. And that is a big deal when it comes to selling this to business and dealing with that resistance. So next piece of resistance is, you know, it's not quite there yet, you know. It's kind of, especially what people thought of with the Surface 1, the Surface 2, the Surface RT. It's like, nice attempt, but yeah, it's not quite there yet. You know, maybe one day we'll see a Windows tablet that I'm going to want to use, but not now. So, you know, I just would have to say that, you know, you put modern equipment in people's hands, this goes away. This is a perception about how things have been, not how things are today. So Windows isn't a true mobile experience. This is pretty powerful. When people think mobile, they think Android, they think iOS, they don't think Microsoft Windows. Or they might think, you know, this is hokey, you know, can you do it? Sure, but you know, Windows isn't what I have in mind when I'm thinking mobile. You know, it's some kind of freak of nature like this. You know, this is weird. So let's deal with that from a couple angles. First of all, on any modern Windows tablet, you can get, you know, 3G, 4G, LTE cards in them. You can get, they have HD front and rear cameras. They've got, you know, Bluetooth and NFC capable. They have an ambient light sensor, accelerometer and gyroscope, of course geolocation, and a magnetometer. The magnetometer is what tells you what north is. Now, if this is the first time, you know, if I didn't just, you know, read that word for you, you might have pronounced it magnetometer, which is extremely useful for telling you when Magneto is near. So the point of this is, you know, there's complete local sensor feature parity in Windows tablets. Now, you got to decide which ones you care about, but you can find them in modern Windows tablets. Maybe not, you know, all of these in one package or all of these in the Surface, but they are available. And as a side note, you know, who's going to client-side virtualize or remote all these sensors? I think this is kind of an interesting challenge to you know, the virtualization and remoting industry, to say, you know, this is what we have today. 5 years from now, I think that list is probably even going to, you know, grow. It's not going to shrink. This is going to get continually more complex in terms of, you know, on the execution side, on the user interaction side, it's going to be more and more intelligence. So it's going to be something we're going to need to deal with. All right. So another piece of, you know, Windows doesn't fit into the mobile experience is, you know, Windows didn't evolve out of the smartphone. You know, if you ask Apple or Google, they'll say the tablet is the evolution of the smartphone. If you ask Microsoft, they'd say, you know, the tablet is the evolution of the laptop. And, you know, they're tackling the same thing from two different directions. Regardless of who you agree with, these things are on a collision course and becoming more and more similar every day. You know, another note about, you know, Windows kind of growing into things. I mean, goodness, it's going to get crazy here soon with Windows 10. We started with the desktop OS, then we go to tablet, and now we're going to, you know, Raspberry Pi 2, you know, the phones and IoT and all this good stuff. So, you know, Microsoft is going everywhere with this stuff. So it's a different way of looking at the same thing. All right, so Windows isn't cool. So this kind of go back to almost the post-PC world that Steve Jobs cast that you know, put us all in a tizzy. This created havoc as well, did it not? I mean, you know, I don't want a Microsoft Windows laptop. I want to be hip. I want to be cool. I want to be like Justin Long. Right. I mean, I want to be like Justin Long. Who doesn't want to be like Justin Long? He's so cool, right? So, you know, Windows isn't cool. So, you know, we got that we're up against. So I will tell you that this, is this just fluff? Does this matter in the business world? I will say it does matter from one angle. Your sales team that you put in front of your clients that represent your company, and especially if you are a technology company, you better give them a device that's modern. If they show up at a client site with an old plastic clunky Windows laptop, it just does not create the impression that your company is in any way forward thinking. So what we found is we get the cool devices, get the Surface Pro 3s and the like in the hands of the sales team, and they feel cool. They're especially cool when they can really do everything in front of the client. They don't need to say, oh, I'm doing this on my iPad. Oh, wait, you want to see that? Let me pull up my laptop. So this fits the cool bill, finally. All right, let's summarize some Windows tablet advantages over iPads. Runs your apps natively. You can use a mouse if you want to. Now I know nowadays you can buy a cool Citrix X1 mouse if you want to run your mouse on your iPad, but for the most part, mice don't work so well there. You already know how to manage it, deploy it. Your team already knows how to ship these things. You can go live with Windows tablets the same way you go live with laptops today. It's that easy. So you don't need to invest in a whole bunch of new skills. You don't need EMM because you've got GPOs and SCCM. Now, there's an argument to be made that EMM may in the future replace these technologies, but today, I think EMM maybe manages 100 or a couple hundred settings. GPO is in the many thousands of settings. So there's going to be gaps there for quite some time. Your users already know how to operate it. They know how to get their files on and off of it. I know how to use a Dropbox, but our average end user may not. It has USB ports. You can put a flash drive in it if you want to, and you can print from it reliably. And that's these are the advantages. And to sum this up, yeah, go ahead.
MirrorCost.
Say it again.
MirrorCost.
MirrorCost.
For sales team.
Yeah.
You can just project to monitors and stuff.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, the connectivity to displays, big time. Yeah. 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 Gotcha. Yeah, being able to connect these things and have your non-technically savvy sales team go through and be able to present and use these things to present is a big deal. So, good point. So, to sum this up, the Windows value proposition is continuity with the past. Microsoft has not always got this right. I think they've fouled this up with Windows 8 to a degree, but they've gotten this right with Windows 10. Of course, this is the picture everyone sees. You bring the new stuff, you don't take away the old stuff. To the degree that we as IT providers to our companies can execute on that and make that happen, we're going to continue to be successful. And that is, I think, the core advantage of Windows tablets. So what's so great about the Surface? Why am I hopped up on the Surface? So I have been running the Surface Pro 3 as my only work computer since July. I got it shortly after it came out, so July last year. So I've had a good year of runtime with it, and it's been fantastic. It's certainly, in my opinion, the best computer I've ever used. So what do I like about it besides the fact that it's a nice PC? It's very fast and light. Well, I think one of the coolest things about it is durability. So I don't know if you guys saw this when it was nearly launched, but I turned this into a GIF so you can just watch this guy throw this thing on the floor repeatedly. It's kind of cool. This thing is durable, and to do this with an iPad. So I bought at least 2 iPad screens. Breakage happens a lot. These things are harder to break, which is fantastic. I like not having to worry about it from a durability standpoint. So I had a personal run-up with this. Unintentionally, I did my own test of this to a degree. I ran over my Surface Pro 3 with my Honda Pilot SUV kind of twice, ba-dump, right? and this is it afterwards, okay? Got a pretty good bend there. It wasn't meant to handle that, right? But to my shock and surprise, the thing booted. Now, as you can see, I lost a good 4 square inches of screen there. No shattered glass, but the LCD bled. It's broken. I did have to replace it, but it booted. And if I hooked up an external monitor to it, it was like good as new. I was like, wow, I can run this thing over with my SUV twice, and it doesn't die. So I was able to migrate my profile off of it and get all my data and all that good stuff. So I was happy. I was a happy guy. So, and I had accidental coverage on it, so it didn't cost me anything either. So even better. So durability. This thing is tough. So it's kind of fun. So the other thing I like about it is it really, from an end user computing standpoint, gives you a unified experience. As in, this isn't just the tablet that can replace your laptop. It's the tablet that can replace your laptop and your desktop. You can have one machine, one consistent user interface for everything. So this is, what I'm going to show you is basically docking it, which might not seem impressive to this crowd at all, but when you think about pitching this to a business audience, and they're used to the iPad, which of course you can't even dream of doing this with. This is a big deal. So this is a snippet of a pitch I made to my business as a part of the Surface Challenge project, and I'll show you just a clip, a short snippet of this video, and yes, that is a 50-inch Death Star on my office wall. So I love that thing. So all right, here we go.
I'm sure you've seen the Microsoft commercials
get a
where
little
it talks
volume
about the
here.
Surface Pro 3 being the tablet that can replace your laptop. That's very true, and that's really important. However, I want to show you one other trick that you maybe didn't know about that's really nice. So with the help of a peripheral USB dock, I can show you some pretty sweet magic. So here I am in tablet mode with my Surface Pro 3. I'm going to collapse it, plug in one USB cable, and watch what happens. There you go. My same browser, my same applications, all running there off of the Surface Pro 3. I've got my keyboard, my mouse, my hardwired Ethernet jack. I've got my printer, everything I need to be working in the office environment. Really, really nice. Adds so much productivity because there's no guessing between what's going to work on this versus what do I need my laptop for. That game is over. Then I simply just unplug that same USB cord, and I'm back in tablet mode. Boom. Ready to go.
So that is the value proposition of this, is the unified experience across the board just makes you more productive. And, this isn't magic. I had like a $100 dock that I used to make this work. This is the Lenovo one I happen to have. There's lots of different ones. Just have some display ports, USB ports, and graphic and Ethernet port. Lots of these out there. Just turns this device into a desktop. So pretty fun. All right. So back to the Surface Challenge project. The premise is, does carrying around two devices make you more mobile? And when it came to presenting this to management, it was about positioning. Some positioning statements, and really just showing that iPads are a bit of a novelty, and and laptops, of course, are a legacy, and showing the alternative as something that's modern. Kind of getting these concepts in front of business folks was important to kind of make this successful. And you might disagree with me that iPads are novelty. Maybe we're past that, but I think when it can't replace when it can't be an end-user computer completely, it's a bit of a novelty. So so I love the Surface. When do you not go with the Surface? Maybe the 12-inch screen is too small. I ran into that a lot. So especially with some of my older business users, 12 is a little small. So fortunately, Microsoft thought of that, and they came out with the 55-inch and the 84-inch Surface. Have you guys seen these things? So this is called the Surface Hub. Now, it's a real product, but man, the battery life is terrible, and it does not fit in my man bag. So no, this isn't, of course, the solution for that. But the point is that there are other products that fit this space. There are a lot of makers of Windows tablets, and this is 2013. So this is my analysis of the market of Windows tablet makers in 2013. Last time I spoke at BriForum on this topic. So at the time, Samsung and Lenovo were killing it. Dell and Toshiba and Asus were kind of doing a lot of Me Too products. And this is prior to the Surface Pro 3 coming out, so Microsoft, HP, and others were kind of making kind of niche products, something that I would not say would have any kind of broad appeal. So 2 years later, lots has changed. In the leader category, well, actually in this whole chart altogether, Samsung is completely absent. They went from really being pretty progressive and leading the Windows tablet industry to jumping out of it completely. So it's interesting. Lenovo is still doing well. Microsoft I've now put in the leader category. They're pushing the envelope. And Dell, just as of late, as of the last couple of months, has started to release some innovative Windows tablet products. HP and Toshiba are still in the follower categories, and these other guys have niche products as well. So that's my assessment of what who makes Windows tablets out there today. Now let's look at some of the specifics, styles of Windows tablets. First of all, I put this up somewhat for historical reasons, but you know, when I talked about doing Windows tablets for the last 6 years, for a chunk of time, this was it. You know, these were it. These are laptops with a swivel in the middle and a touchscreen. They're really expensive. They are just like a laptop, but they ran like, you know, who remembers Windows XP Tablet Edition when that came out? It was like, yeah, exactly. I mean, it's like, ooh, look, Windows tablets. Again, this is more like the groaning phase of the life cycle, but still, it existed, and we actually ran these in the enterprise and deployed thousands of these. But these are end of life, so don't buy them. They are no longer making these or developing these products. So the other choice of style is kind of the plexiglass only. You know, we played around with this. We deployed a round of kind of tablet-only devices out to our end users. I will tell you, we struggle with that to a degree. You know, you tend to have to bundle a lot of stuff with it. You know, you get your Folio keyboard, you get your Bluetooth mouse, you almost have to give a whole war kit to someone if you're giving them just the the slate only. So you know, I actually don't recommend this necessarily unless for someone's primary end user computer nowadays. We kind of learned that lesson. You've got the twist style, which is just like the original style except Ultrabook mode. So they're thinner, lighter than the laptop versions, but the HP EliteBook Revolve would be an example of a twist model. Then you got the flip. This is an Ultrabook that folds back on itself. Touchscreen Ultrabook that folds back on itself, clamshells, and then kind of goes all the way around the other way. Lenovo and Toshiba make products like this. If you're looking at yogas, there's lots of different yogas. For business, I would be picky and make sure you get a Pro or a ThinkPad edition, business grade Lenovo Yoga, not the consumer grade ones. I find it interesting putting these things side by side. Holy cow, did Toshiba rip off Lenovo marketing? You know, is that nuts? I mean, it looks almost identical. So again, kind of further emphasizing the point that Toshiba is a follower. They're a Me Too product in this space. Then you have the split. I would say apart from the Microsoft Surface, this is the leading style of Windows tablets that are out there today. Lenovo Helix is a good one. The Dell Latitude 13 is another good one. A lot of the vendors make these. They're sometimes called 2-in-1s. It's a laptop that you rip apart in half. So pretty nice. Gives you the lightness of it, and also clamshells together, so it protects the screen and the keyboard, which is nice. So let's talk a little bit about smartphones with Windows tablets. So what we've developed in our company is a bit of a companion strategy. What I mean by that is having a really strong Windows tablet offering lessens the burden on what you have to deliver through your phone. What I mean by that is if I've got an instant on, ready to access Windows tablet where I can get my files on and off of easily, I don't need to worry about presenting my home drive to my phone because they won't feel the need to do that because the tablet's right there. So by having a really strong tablet strategy, it's not to say you don't maybe want to do EMM here. You probably still want to do that. But it makes the challenge easier if you're not trying to do everything through this. So I'll give you a business example of how that's worked out in our company. So the crop adjustment app that we deploy on the Windows tablets uses touchscreen for on-screen signing. It also is legacy. It's been around for more than a decade, and it has a lot of business logic processing in it. It's a heavyweight client app that we deploy to the tablets. We also wrote our own internal company iOS app to be a companion to that, something that the crop adjuster could take out of their pocket and take pictures of crop damage with, have that geotagged, directionally tagged, and automatically linked with the policy that they're working on. This was really easy to write. Not a lot of code here. This is really heavy. It's got all the business logic processing in it. So we were able to kind of put these things together, kind of examine the workloads where they make sense, and do something relatively fast and easy for business users on an iPhone without having to do like the whole policy processing system on here. So that's what I mean by a companion strategy. So let's look at the future a little bit. Way, way in the distant future, Windows 10's coming, 7 days from now. So we've got 7 more days to live with Windows 8 being the coolest operating system from Microsoft. So that's good news. This is going to certainly make tablet adoption easier. Gets the I hate Windows 8 crowd off your backs a little bit, which is nice. So I'm excited about this. I think to a large degree this is what we're going to be rolling out as much as we can. So as much as I've been talking about all the wonderful good things that Microsoft has been doing to kind of get this on board, I actually think what might be more significant than what Microsoft has done is really what Intel has done. So why have we had the crappy, stupid Windows tablets historically? It's because of Intel. And why do we start to have cooler, more sleek, more modern-looking tablets that can run Windows nowadays? It's because of Intel. So the developments on the the Skylake and the Broadwell line and the Cherry Trail Atom processor line have really started to make this interesting. And that's actually not Microsoft's doing. This is Intel's doing. They were getting their rear ends handed to them from the ARM market, and this is a strong response. So I give a lot of credit to Intel in terms of making these products interesting and usable. So here's my rumor mill roundup on what's coming with the Surface Pro 4. None of this is verified. It's all just a collection of rumors that I've read on the internet, and including the timeline. Who knows? Latest I heard is it might come out in October. We'll see. So things to watch for. Possibly NVMe SSDs in them, which will be lickety-split fast and pretty exciting. Possibly fanless. I would expect it to be fanless. The Surface 3 is fanless. I would expect the next generation of the Surface Pro line to also be fanless, which would be great. Micro USB charging, something they introduced on the Surface 3. Potentially the next version of the Pro will have micro USB charging as well. It'll either have a Broadwell or a Skylake processor in it. It may come in 12-inch and 14-inch varieties, which will take care of that whole other use case where I had to not buy surfaces. I had to buy Helixes or I had to buy Yogas for a large group of my users because they needed larger screens. This might take care of that. 4G LTE recently announced as available in upcoming iterations of the Surface Pro 3. So that will be out actually before the Surface Pro 4. But so watch for that. And backward compatibility with the SP3 type covers and docks. Certainly for the 12-inch variety, not for the 14. So that's all exciting. Again, all speculation. And when all this comes to us and in what form, your guess is as good as mine. But I thought it'd be interesting to look forward to what might be coming and take some cues from what we've seen, even with the Surface 3, which is a real product. All right, some thoughts about BYOD from an end-user computing standpoint. So this is a 2008 Dilbert comic. My only hope for productivity is to smuggle in my home laptop, right? So we've been, that came out, what, 7 years ago? We've been kind of in this mindset for quite some time. And I just take this as a challenge. If this is how my end users feel, I'm sucking at my job. I think we can do better. And I think especially with the modern platforms that are out there today, if we just try and put out some effort, we can be an IT provider of choice. And do that better than consumers can do on their own. So we have access to a lot more information and a lot more of the business requirements and can hopefully give our end users some choice, some products of choice. So I take this as a challenge. and I think kind of giving up on this is the wrong way to go. This is the consumerization of IT, not the enterprisation of consumer devices. That kind of that's kind of my main thought here is let's take cues from the consumer market and apply them to what we're doing in the enterprise, not just give up and just say, well, we'll just, use consumer devices in the enterprise. That's hard to do. And obviously we've discussed why that doesn't work so well. All right, so what's our approach going forward? I would suggest, a rapid prototyping approach. Jump in now, the water's warm. If your device certification process takes 6 months, you're doing something wrong. This is the old mindset of IT. I'm going to buy a, 10,000 Dells, have them show up, and I'm going to pick out of inventory, and that'll last me a while, right? Divvy them out. Standardize on one thing or a couple things, devices keep coming out really, really rapidly. We need to be able to get them in the environment, get them in our lab, certify them, and with modern imaging technology, we should be able to, download the drivers, inject them into our image rather easily, and move forward. So we've built that in our process to be very, very fast, so we can kind of bring in new devices, have them certified very, very quickly. I think that's extremely important if you're going to embrace this approach. Try something, throw it against the wall, see if it sticks. I mentioned this, we rolled out some Samsung tablets that were slate only. In retrospect, that might not have been a great idea, but I didn't burn for it. It's just something you learn from. You have to try things in order to learn some things sometimes. So try something. Don't buy 10,000 of them. Buy a couple, buy 50, buy 10, whatever is appropriate for your organizational size. Get them out there in the field, and then listen to your users, adapt, iterate, keep churning through them. Find a way to be an IT provider of choice. Now, this might sound a lot more complex and harder to support than the old way of doing end user computing. That's true, but really with consumerization of IT and the modern approach, this is how we have to learn to operate. We have to be faster. We have to be more iterative in our approaches. So in conclusion, iPads are seriously lacking, thus requiring the supplemental laptop. Windows tablets have a distinct advantage. We addressed the resistance. We discussed my Surface Challenge project and really what are the components of a successful Windows tablet rollout. We surveyed the landscape of available products. We talked about the future and a pathway forward. The bottom line is that Windows tablets are a compelling alternative to the laptop plus iPad paradigm. So you might disagree with me. This was kind of meant to be a thought-provoking session around the notion that maybe there's another way to go versus beating our head against the wall trying to make iPads work like laptops. They're a true laptop replacement. They can be cost-effective. There's continuity, that continuity piece for IT, not just for the end users, but for IT and for management and for compliance and for everyone. There's continuity with the past. You can get the new stuff without having to get rid of the old stuff. There's no shortage of mobile experience features, and you don't need to wait for the Surface Pro 4. You don't need to wait for Windows 10 in a week. You can start today, or if you're still running Windows 7, I would still say start today. Make this happen. You can do this. So my final thought is, we are technologists, even in light of the consumerization of IT. There's a Henry Ford quote, if I had asked people what they wanted, they would have said faster horses. To kind of apply that what we're doing here, people ask for iPads because that's somewhat what's been advertised to them, right? You can give them iPads or work with their iPads, or you can say, hey, you know what? I like where you're going with this. I like your idea of being more mobile. Try this. We're the technologists. We're the ones that can anticipate the needs and give them something better. So not just give them what they ask for, give them something better by anticipating and listening to their needs. So thanks for coming. I appreciate it. I'll be glad to take any questions. No question? Yeah, go ahead.
For the services that you deploy, what sort of refresh cycle are you looking at?
A little more rapid. So, from a financial standpoint, we somewhat traditionally had planned on a 3-year refresh cycle, but we go a little more aggressive with that. about every 2 years. So, yeah, yeah, good question. Yeah.
Was there ever considered a Chromebook or something like that?
Well, good question. Have I ever considered a Chromebook? I think, Chromebook has a lot of the same disadvantages as an iPad does. It's cheaper, but you don't get the native execution. No, I haven't seriously considered Chromebooks. Good thought. Anybody else? Yeah.
i5s and i7, just better enough on i7.
Yeah. Yeah. We do i3s and i5s. The good question. Good question. Do we do with the i7s? You can get an i7. I think I would consider an i7 for a developer workload potentially, things like that. But for the average, my target is executives and sales folks. They don't need an i7. It's not necessary. They would do better to have the better battery life as you described. So, good question. Yep.
Did any of your executives or users give it back and say, give me your valid stuff back?
No. Good question. But so, did anyone just balk at this and say, this sucks, give me my stuff back? No, and it had to do with really positioning this as on the front side, doing the upfront work, and kind of doing a little hand holding, to a degree, and saying, hey, I know this is different and scary to a degree, but how, and really questioning is like, how well is the current solution really working for you? And once they realize it's like, what, this is a little bit of a novelty, it's a little bit of a pain to carry around 2 devices everywhere I go. This is something that said, and I dealt with the resistance, the fear around Windows 8. No, they didn't go back. I can't keep Surface Pro 3s in stock, and I've got an excess of iPads laying around gathering dust. Any other questions? Yeah, go ahead. Good question. If I were talking to the Surface Pro product team and telling them, do this, goodness, great question. A lot of things I kind of speculate might be coming is what I want. I want fanless. Totally. I want, I love the type cover. I don't think that needs to get improved upon. I think it's great. Thinner is always better. Anything that makes it thinner and lighter, and, it's not quite iPad-like completely. It's still a little bit bulkier. So if we can continue to get there, and I know it's more of an Intel thing than a Microsoft thing, but if we can, make that so I hold an iPad and I hold a Surface up, and I can't feel the difference. Man, that's really going to make a big difference, I think. 2 USB ports, yes. Be okay. I'd be good with that. I can make do with one. One is way better than 0. One is a million times better than 0. But yeah. USB charging, yep. That's you can get that on the 3, not the Pro 3. Yeah, that's coming, hopefully. Yeah. You bet. Yeah. Do I use SCCM? Do I use desktop management? Do I domain join these things? You betcha. I treat these things like a regular laptop in every sense of the word. That is, in my opinion, from an IT standpoint, the value proposition. You could do these things. It's a form factor change. It's you don't manage them any differently than you manage a laptop or desktop. So absolutely, I do the same exact stack as I would put on anything else, which makes them very, very easy to secure, very, very easy to maintain. Great question. Go for it.
Some of your original sales before we had any issues with serviceability and Surface Pro versus the laptop.
Oh, yeah.
Swap out the hard drive.
I'm glad you brought that up. So serviceability is something I ran into to a degree. So yeah, you can't crack up the case and take out the hard drive and service these devices like you can a laptop. To a degree, I think that's something that IT is going to need to get over. You can't do that with an iPad either, right? So, I think yes, we ran into that issue. That was more of a barrier for IT than the business. The business didn't care. They don't care if I can field service it. If we can hot swap it, they're in business. That was an IT complaint, and I kind of just had to talk to my team and say, let's get past this. I think we need to kind of move on. because the future, I mean, things are going to get more and more and more embedded and on the board and sealed. It's just the way things are going to be. So it's kind of a self-talk to say that we can get past this. Good question. That was an IT resistance. Yeah. Yep. No, I didn't, but I tried those. So to a degree, I played around with a couple of third-party ways to get the start menu back on Windows 8. I didn't go with any of them in production. And I found, again, almost back to what I was talking about before, is it's a fear of Windows 8. It's a perception that Windows 8 is going to be this big deal, that this is the UI. But it's not. It's the start menu. I hit start, type, enter. That's how you get through it. And you can change some file type associations so you don't pop into the, the readers and all the other kind of things that go in there. So I didn't replace the start menu. We just teach people and set things up in a way that avoids it. But good question. One of the reasons I don't endorse that and didn't roll out is because I don't like modifying Windows to that degree in a production setting so much. I think you're asking for some future unpredictability from a patch cycle and all that kind of stuff. So, but there are options out there. That's what you need for sure. Or just do Windows 10. All you gotta do is wait a week. So, any other questions? Yeah. Yeah. Yep. I personally have not, but I know people that do. So the question is, can I have the Surface alongside with the two monitors lit as well? Absolutely, you can. One of my coworkers does that. I just prefer to have uniform screen sizes that I'm working with. I find it tedious to have ununiform tiny screens alongside my big screens. So that's personal preference, but it works. You can extend all the way across. Good question. Oh, I know. You're making fun of my monitors. Exactly. Yeah, I get my old school 19s. I like them. It's a force of habit, but yeah. Any other questions? Well, this has been really fun. I'd love to talk to you individually if you have any other questions, but we can wrap it up. Thank you very much for coming.